Later. Yeah, now it's okay.
In case we need to go there.
Okay.
So, uh, AC, do you want to try sharing your screen?
Good test.
Or I don't think you need to, but but
Share slides.
yeah, it's coming up. Okay, I just granted you. It's coming up. It's coming up.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's being started, but I think
It's
you
slow.
you have to select which tab and which window, I guess. Okay.
Try just try anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works. Good. Thanks. So
Okay.
we
We are
can.
not in LSR.
Yeah, just to put it back to our slides. You can. Yeah. Do you start share slides?
Yeah, I'm start. So
Okay.
we're okay to
Time
start.
to. Okay.
Time to start.
Okay. So it's time to get started. So welcome to the LSVR working group session. Um, Please know that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, the note well, basically this is a reminder of a set of IETF rules and topics such as patents, code of conduct, and privacy. Please read it carefully. And as a reminder to the chairs, we are not suggested to interpret it by ourselves. So just read it carefully. And for further information, you can take a look at the links on this page. Right. This is you should know this really well. Basically, we should respect each other and being kind to people. Okay. The meeting tips. Today is Thursday. You should be already very familiar with this. Um, the resource for the meeting. The agenda of today, as we noted on the mailing list, we will use most of our session time to discuss open issues on this BGP SPF-based document so that we can conclude and send it to the ISG next step. Okay. As for the working group recharter, we have sent the proposed charter update to our AD, Jim, and it will be taken forward for the IESG evaluation right after the main specification, which is the BGP SPF, has been sent to the IESG. The updates of the working group documents, BGP SPF-based document, it is currently in working group last call, and this is on today's agenda. The LSVR applicability, the authors have indicated that they will give an update after the main specification working group last call comments have been addressed. For the BGP young model, it has been expired, and we need to check with the editors on the further progress.
So we'll try to check with Mahesh if he's going to be able to continue and have spent time on this. Else we'll need somebody else from the working group to also join in and do the heavy lifting that Mahesh has been doing so far.
Okay, the last one is L3DL. After discussion with the authors, the status of this document will be changed from proposed standard to the experimental. And they have also agreed to merge the three documents into one R3DL document. Currently, the authors are waiting for the working group last call, which is dependent on the rechartering.
So I don't know if Randy is online. Randy, as soon as the charter is approved from the ISG, we'll start the working group last call on this. So uh, the working group is welcome to review and not wait for that. And if you have any comments, just please go ahead and share. Yes, go ahead, Randy.
I'm online.
Yeah, it's in online.
Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about so on the document updates. I really would like to take the applicability document forward along with the spec, but I don't know from the author's perspective whether that's reasonable or not. I don't want to hold up the rechartering because of the applicability document. Obviously, the rechartering needs to happen after the main spec. But
Jim,
yeah,
that's not possible. I've already
okay,
got,
that's why I asked.
that's not possible. It's not going to happen.
Okay, all right, that's why I asked.
Okay, so now so before we go into that, anybody has so our agenda today is solely and mostly focused on getting the main specification discussion around it and trying to complete this work hopefully by the end of tomorrow optimistically. uh, but does anybody have any other agenda or any other points that they would like to bring up to discuss before we get to this document? You can. You can say.
Okay, I'll just say, yeah, this is AC Wyndham. I spent another few hours on my life on a lot of these comments, and it seems like every time we get a new review, we get a new lots of opinions. And, a lot of these are subjective comments. You know what they say about opinions. Anyway, so with that as a preface, I suggest we just go through
Okay.
the remainder. And I think I answered all of Lee Zhang's, we need to cover those.
Yeah. So give me a couple of minutes. I'll just run through this one before we get to the discussion points, right? So we are still awaiting IPR response from some of the contributors. I have dropped reminders to them. Some of them are not really very active at the IETF. So we're still going to make our best effort to get from responses from them. But otherwise, we're not planning to hold up the document uh, just for IPR responses from them.
If they can't be located, maybe we'll just remove them.
No, I think I think from my understanding, it's okay.
Who's left? Just Banu? Is he the only-
Venu, Abhay, Derek. So some of them.
Oh,
are
yeah, we can
located.
get a bay, yeah, easily, but.
Okay, so we need some more. Yeah, go ahead,
If I
Albert.
could make a quick suggestion, Alvaro Rodana, is that I'm assuming that at adoption, the contributors were also asked about IPR, and probably at the other working group last call, and the other working group last call.
Yes.
So it is possible that some of the disclaimer, the whatever the responses are already on the mailing list.
Yes,
So
they are.
look for those. Yeah.
They are. Yeah. So we need some more reviews and responses. We have received a few.
Responses, not reviews. We don't need any more reviews.
We need some reviews and responses. But we have got some of them. And the working group last call will continue till tomorrow as scheduled. Now, before I go to the discussion point, I did I was asked to do a Shepherd review as a chair when I joined as a co-chair, and I did review the document in a lot of details, and we had a lot of discussion. I had a lot of discussion with the co-authors. Uh, One thing that I like to bring out here, and now I'm not wearing any hats, is that this is bringing IGP SPF into BGP, which is a distance vector protocol. There may not be one single right way or a best way to do it. There are many different ways to do it. And we have had our discussions on that. So I sympathize with AC when I see that anybody reviewing this will come up with a new perspective, and that's fine. But it's all about having those discussions and moving forward. So I think uh, that's to explain why every review gets different and more comments, right? uh, the three Before we go on to the actual issues, one of the things that has come up from the comments as well is for the working group to consider whether the status should change from standard stack to experimental. And we have received responses on the working group specifically indicating the desire that this be progressed as standard stack. So now is the time for anybody who wants to make a comment about on that point. Keyur, you are in the queue. Go ahead.
Keyur Patel Arcus. I think you're getting to a point where the reviews are going back to circular arguments, and we are at a point of no return, meaning we aren't getting any constructive feedback, which, by the way, you should still solicit reviews, but we should be very quickly getting to a point of consensus, because some of the conversations we have had in working group in past are the results of which we have made edits, so many edits so far. So I think we should keep that in mind as well. As opposed to standards track, speaking as an author, I'm quite open, but if you're getting a feedback to be on the standards track, so be it. Please note that we have an implementation for this, both in an open source versus a vendor implementation for route reflectors, as well as a non-route reflector based implementation. So there is a multi-vendor implementation in play.
Yes. So on the implementation, Keyur, there was also a comment from Adrian. We'll probably get to that, but since we are on that topic, the implementation, I think, points to a older version of the spec. So if you are aware, do you want to share any details on that part?
Yeah. And thank you, Adrian, for the review. I'd say most of the stuff we have implemented had been on the stable version of the drafts. We have gotten a numerous feedback since we have implemented. Quite a lot of things that we have incorporated so far as part of the feedback has been editorial. There are few changes in implementation that may be required, not a major surgery, but we are waiting for this to go to IESC post, which we will make a one final edit and get it done from an implementation perspective.
Yeah, I think AC Lindum, Lavin, I think we have the one thing based on your comment, because it wasn't really being used for anything necessary. We took out the SPF type. That was in the implementation, even though we didn't support, different SPF types. So you said, well, we got rid of that. And the error handling has been more specified more. So perhaps there'll be more, I know we have more error handling than we ever had before. So
Yeah,
those are the things I'd see is, oh, and there was also for unnumbered links.
Yeah.
There was an additional TLV and how you make sure you use them for the appropriate address families.
Correct. But all these are, as I said, quite incremental. So we want the draft to go through the last call post, which we will quickly refactor it in the implementation.
Yeah, thank you. So now we can get to the actual comments and discussion on them. So thanks, Adrian, for uh, sacrificing your slot on the TVR to be here. Uh, I believe, AC, I'll hand it over to you. You have responded to Adrian, and a version has been posted as well. So this is now kind of, let's say, open mic. Uh, Adrian, do you have any responses or any discussion on AC's reply? If you have had a chance to look at it, those I can bring it up.
Some of it we should have discussion.
Yes, it's Adrian. I very much appreciate AC getting the revision out and the email. I'm kind of busy at a conference this week doing some internet stuff, and I just can't keep up with email. So I suggest that this is the forum just to go through it and get my tick in the box, or I can sit in the corner and read the email, whichever works.
I think there were some points,
Yeah, or
AC, that, yeah, so go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I can share. Share. It seems like it wants me to share web content instead. Let's see what happens.
I can share.
You can share the email.
Yes, I can.
I don't know why when it did it for me, it wanted me to share tabs in my browser instead of. Yeah, we definitely should discuss that
So I'm-
that major comment about the scaling and stable environments.
Yeah, so I'm bringing it up. AC, you might, if I don't know if you can see it in your in here, or maybe there is better. We'll only go to those which need discussion, and rest expectation is that we'll close them next week. Not right now. Okay, yeah.
So we had this whole discussion about very stable, because we had one line in there, it said about DCs had very, I don't know, that was from the original draft, very stable environments, but like I was saying, I don't think this is limited, any more limited than BGP would be in the same environments. Why BGP SBF would be any worse. And that's why I know we did have that one line that said, that it's advantageous to use BGP SBF in a DC in very stable environments, but I don't think it's limited to that.
Yeah, so I don't need to lecture the people in this room about the properties of BGP. I think that probably you might even find that the right thing to do here is point at the applicability document and then just not say anything here about applicability. It's when you start saying things about, oh, well, look, DCs are very stable and this would be appropriate, that it begs questions about when it's not appropriate and what we know about what would happen if you were thrashing BGP. And obviously BGP LS is a different shape from BGP, but nevertheless, will a BGP engine stand vast amounts of churn in the data? I don't know. I haven't got one in my what should I call it, lab, kitchen at home. So it's either point out to the applicability or put some scoping in here or warning if you feel a warning is appropriate.
K. Patel Arcus. Would you feel more comfortable if we remove that line?
Yeah, I guess I would. Let's just up level a minute about this review. Okay, this is a review for the area director, pointing out things he might want to worry about. So we can discuss. This is a good thing. I'll stop worrying the area director if we fix this, or whatever. But in general, you don't need to make me go, oh, that's better, that's right. You kind of need to make the AD say that. But yeah, I guess I would be more comfortable not stating stuff about environments unless that's what you mean.
That was precisely what I mean. That's why I suggested maybe we should consider removing, because I think both you and AC are saying, hey, stable or no stable, it doesn't make it any worse. But the fact that that line is in there raises a lot of questions. And if we could, and I see that point, so if we could just remove that, makes it easier. By the way, it doesn't change spec at all, because it's just describing. So from my perspective, I'm good to go if that's making it simpler.
Okay. The other point that I wanted to bring here is about separating the registry between BGPLS and BGP-SPF. The reason why the registry shared was because a whole lot of BGPLS was leveraged here, or is being leveraged in BGP-SPF. The question is, if something here from BGP SPF gets advertised into BGP LS, what happens? And no hats. I mean, as an individual contributor, oh, what happened? Something crashed. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So on that one, BGP SP LS is anyways more like a transport thing. Whatever is sent there is really left to the consumer to interpret. So maybe we need some text or something language.
Well, I don't think we should split the registries just because they share the same attribute. You know, we piggybacked on that from the beginning. Correct. To try and change the protocol now. I mean, that would, if somebody wants to do that, they can do that in BGP SPF version 2 or something.
To me, this is another circular argument. Look, in BGP, we share a lot of things that is infrastructure BGP based across different RFIs. We never made a point across in IDR working group. We still don't do it to say, hey, let's go because it's a new SAFI. Let's go share it across or replicate it or make a new registry for it. The point is, what you can reuse, you want to reuse, but you want to make sure you don't squat over it in a manner that you can break it. And that is what we have done here. So I think this was discussed earlier in the working group. We've made that conscious choice. And unless there is a absolute reason where someone can bring out and say, look, this is squatting and it breaks the functionality in a particular manner, or it has a risk of doing that, I think we should seriously consider keeping it as is.
Right. So the concern here, and I think you just caught it, was what happens if the new TLV that you define here shows up in BGP LS? A solution might be to ask Guyana to put 2 columns in the registry, one saying BGP LS, one saying BGP SPF, and then you just fill that in, populate it, everybody knows what's going on. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't change any of the protocols or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. That's a fantastic suggestion. I'm okay by that.
Okay. Thank you.
Alberto, and you mean to add those columns to the already existing columns? And then everyone in the future needs to Okay, so many, okay, my only concern is that many of the TLVs that are reused by BGP SPF were defined in IDR or somewhere else, right? Or in reality were defined in LSPF, or they were inherited by someone, right? And they're defined somewhere. And so a future TLV, right, that is defined to carry something that now SPF decided to do, that draft may not actually end up marking the column of BGP SPF, even if it might be useful in BGP SPF. Because, you know, that's not what they're thinking. It's being done in IDR. It may not be consulted in this working group. So my only concern is that may fall out of sync. And so we may end up with indicators of things that were useful, that are useful here, that are just not marked because the work was done somewhere else. I don't think that there will be TLVs defined here, right, for the opposite problem. So, but that one where this working group is inheriting things. So yeah, it's not a bad idea, but I don't think it necessarily buys us much.
And what would the consequence be if there's a TLV that BGPLS didn't understand? None.
No problems.
Yeah, so why are we being anal about this?
So the
We're getting
idea,
anal because that's the type of people we are.
so the IDR working group, in IDR working group which owns BGPLS, we don't care about, we don't specify anything about the consumers because it is out of scope.
Okay, so that's good. So maybe you add a line somewhere that says, don't worry, BGPLS has got line 27 of paragraph 13 that says what to do if you don't understand it. So knock yourselves out. Okay, that's a possible way forward.
That's better than the splitting the register.
It's
Okay,
better than
so
splitting
the
it or
register.
adding unnecessary.
Columns in the register.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you would think that that additional usage of different TLVs would be defined in documents here, but having to go back and change IAN and put an X here or there, I agree with Alvaro. It doesn't seem like a lot of.
So
Very
there's
productive.
a converse as well, which is if BGPLS defines something that the SPF doesn't know about, what will happen? And I assume, I can't remember, but I assume that's in your document as well.
Yeah.
I'll just say, what we do is we check it across, and if it fails, then the document gets flagged, and you don't let it go through, so try to catch it early.
Yeah, so what's,
So you'll get a bounce and review if it's not defined, and I added a check clause, usually both places, so that's part of your IAM review.
Yeah.
So you'll catch it either chair review, routing review, or IAM review. If it's in BGPLS and not OSPF, they flag it for us. You could have the same request for cross review on any BGPLS document.
Sorry, Sue. Sue, just as a remote participant, if you're going to speak, can you go to the mic? Because we can hardly hear you remotely.
There you go.
Yeah, then again, the draft is very clear, I believe, and we can add if you feel the text needs to be added on what TLVs to use and what TLVs to operate upon. So in future, even if there are new TLVs that are added in LS, we will choose to not recognize them if they are not applicable.
Yeah.
I mean, we can add,
So-
we can make it explicitly clear, but I believe in the last version that was clarified itself that
Yeah.
says
So
that only subset of the TLVs are recognized, and we'll work on that.
Here's what it says.
yeah. So this,
Here's what it
I'm
says.
going to politely answer Jim. The comment I made earlier, this is Sue Hare's IDR co-chair, Huawei. Okay. The comment I made earlier was on process due to a direct question from CARE. The process that we use has checks at the routing review and at the IANA, that only is manual checks and there is no automated checks. And the statements that everyone made, can you just not say it applies to this application? Fine. The question is, we've never really defined, Keaton, applications versus, who's the consumer? Is it only the BGPLS application? Is that application really LSVR? You're getting into calling LS whatever you're doing over here as an application. Have you called that out? It might make it simpler.
Yeah.
Jim, did I answer? I hope that I was helpful to fill in the back
Yeah,
detail.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so the document does call out explicitly which TLVs are valid and used in BGP SPF, and I believe it also says the rest are ignored. Unknown TLVs are ignored.
Here's exactly what it says. It says the usage of other BGPLS TLVs or extensions is not precluded and, in fact, is expected. However, the details are beyond the scope of this document and may be specified in future documents. So if you wanted,
That's it.
if we wanted to use tags, or something like that, yeah.
But they would need to be specified in a document.
Yeah. And in my understanding, the benefit of you sharing the registry is whenever a new TLV is defined in another document, maybe not in this working group, whenever we want to reuse it, we can just use a document without adding new registry code points.
Okay. AC, the next one, it was just something that needs to be discussed. I think we discussed this, but yeah.
Yeah.
Ketan, sorry to jump back, but before you go forward, did we agree on how to address that? Because it wasn't clear to me anyway, remotely. Did you come to a conclusion? I mean, I kind of I kind of agreed with Alvaro's comment. I'm a little concerned about putting an extra column in the registry, because then you've got the potential for mismatch. That just seems like it could be quite problematic.
Yeah, so I think let me summarize the action here. The only text clarification needed here is to point a reference to the BGP LS spec, which says that unknown TLVs are ignored in that
Okay.
protocol.
Yeah.
We discussed about implementation report or the implementation already. The question here is, and I think it was answered by Keyur, so I'm not sure if we want to. Adrian, did you have any comment on the implementation section reference?
So I love implementation sections, and I'm really happy that there's one in here. But what it currently does is pass the buck to and basically a dead draft. But if that dead draft is going to be updated sometime around the publication request, then it makes it perfect.
Yeah. So we have requested the author of that draft to post an update. The other alternative available is for the authors of the BGP SPF draft to add an implementation section here and perhaps put in text here. So it ensures that when it goes to the IST, the implementation section is available there. So I'll leave it to the authors, either have the other draft upgraded, refreshed and published, or move the section into this one.
When speaking for AC as well, but we would think keeping that document separate would be great. I mean, when we formed this working group, we didn't say we need an implementation, but it is important that we have one or more. to ensure that the solution moves forward. To that point, we have a separate document. So I suggest we keep that because it will be a lengthier document, be a detailed document. And while this goes through ISG, anybody wants to refer that should be able to do that. And you are absolutely right. We should refresh that and make sure it is up to date so that people have the right reference.
Sounds good. So
And
the
then
action
Ketan-
is,
and
so
then
the,
Ketan, what we can do is, like IDR does, we can always set up a wiki for implementations and track it as part of wiki.
yeah, we can do that. So the summary on this point is that the implementation draft will get refreshed, and we'll wait for that before we send this to the ISG.
Okay, and I'll add the reference back too. I took the reference out because it said it was going to be removed anyway, but
Then the next point was about the RR mode of deployment. You see, yeah.
I said possibly you could remove it, but Kayer said that that was also implemented. So I'd wonder what we need to add for that. That was my comment. I didn't know about whether we want to specify that or not.
See, can you repeat the question? RR mode as to what?
So it's what we are sharing up here. Adrian had a comment. Sorry, it's
To me,
I can zoom. Oh yeah, I can zoom. Oops.
Can we add something to say everything's, I mean, that's kind of policy, local policy, policy, so you can say what you put in there.
My suggestion is that we cover this in applicability spec, because as you know, inside BGP, whether you do a full mesh IBGP or a route reflector based or a cluster based, or as in confederations, or
hop
you
by
go deploy it at eBGP, is a matter of choice for an operator. Most of those choices are available here in data center. The default deployment is eBGP hop by hop, but you can do route reflector as an overlay as well as an underlay. And these route reflectors can be inline or out of line. So I suggest we move, I think, and beef up the applicability draft when we come to that, and just make sure all the procedures in this document holds up to all those deployment use cases, which is what we have tried to do.
I might worry about having it in there and just pointing to their document without it. I don't know. Maybe that should be separate. I don't know.
So I think we're discussing 2 points at once, which is just a little confusing because the two paragraphs there are bunched together. So the first one is my fault. I got confused by the text right at the top of section 4, because it says depending on topology, scaling, blah, blah, blah. And actually, I think what you really mean is depending on what the operator's policy is. Okay, because if you say depending on topology, then I'm immediately asking, well, okay, so which topologies do I do what in? But your answer is, well, that's up to the operator to decide according to their policy. And that's fine. Just, somehow put in the word policy in the top of section 4 and we're done.
Okay.
I don't know. Kayer, did you get that?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think what.
Want me to pull up the draft?
Sure, I guess.
Do you have it, section 4? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, adding a pointer to the applicability would be an extra super thing to do.
Or just not. Yeah. Again, Kyr Patel Arcus, would you be okay if we instead of putting, so clearly this should, some of these things should go into applicability document, but we don't want to set up the dependency with applicability document. Would you feel comfortable if we say, hey, a lot of these deployment choices are outside the scope of this document at least, and will be maybe covered somewhere else?
Yeah, I think the trickery weasel words are, this is discussed further in.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think you're in the queue.
Short legs, thanks. To, for the two documents on the implementation report, it's worked just fine to put it on a wiki for most all of IDR's documents. You don't really have to have it as another document, so CARE's comments well taken.
Yes.
All right, so the second point was on the route reflector thing. And what I wasn't totally clear about, route reflectors often have policy saying what they're actually going to reflect and not reflect. And we know how to do that for regular BGP because we've got loads of experience and there are probably quite a few RFCs talking about it. Here, you've got a route reflector and it's receiving stuff. What sort of policies might it do? Is the general expectation that it actually redistributes everything? Just a hint.
Yeah. So you're saying we could just say that everything that's received is reflected to all the peers?
If that's your intent, then saying it is helpful.
Okay. What do you think, Kay? I think that would be good just to say that, and because I don't want to go into what you could do to optimize things.
I'm okay by that, if
Yeah.
that clarifies. I again, there's zero change to implementation, but I think this is more what I think Adrian is hinting is it gives a clarity to the text. So I'm okay.
Okay, so the summary on that is section 4.3, clarify that all information is just reflected by the RR. There's no filtering policy on it. Okay. So I'm going to move over. AC, let me know if there is something that you like to discuss here, or it's something that can be done over an email. Then we can skip over. But let me know. Yeah, I think this section 5221 there was something about the unnumbered links that you wanted
So,
to.
sorry, I didn't type enough characters when I was writing this. If you have a look at 5211, it's talking about the SPF status TLV. I agree with you. But one of the fields in the SPF status TLV is called SPF status. And the node and the link status TLVs both have SPF status fields. Can't find the second one. Yeah. The node one and the link one, they both have SPF status fields, but those fields have different sets of potential values with different meanings. And it's marginal, okay? It's not like a big deal, but if you were to able to call one of them the SPF node status field, and then it would just...
Well, what I was getting at is this is the way it's been implemented, and maybe if we would have gotten this comment 5 years ago.
I'm
we-
not changing anything technical here. I'm just changing the name of the field.
But it's the same TLV and all
No, it's not
the same coding. I mean, so you're saying call the field something
they are
different.
different TLVs. They have different TLV type numbers.
Oh. No, they
Oh,
aren't.
no, they don't.
They
Huh.
have the same TLV type number.
Same, I think.
Okay, sorry, my bad. You've got sections calling the TLVs different names, but they are actually the same TLV. Right. In a different world, I would have written a different review comment.
I had a similar comment,
Adrian.
and we agreed that it
Adrian,
was too late.
I think you have 100% right to shout at the original LS authors, some of which are present here.
Okay. Okay, so nothing to be done there. I think, Sue, you are in the queue. I see you in the queue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Get myself out of the queue.
Okay. Okay. On 5221, unnumbered links. Was there a discussion needed there? So
I don't know if I want to put a must for an unnumbered link. That's an interdependency between, how the link descriptor is and everything. I don't want to make it malformed. It's just not going to be work.
yeah, so just for a background, some of these details for unnumbered were clarified only in the recent versions, and the text before that has been there from a earlier version.
Yeah, so my trigger, when I do sort of reviews like this, my trigger words are should and may. Whenever I see a should, I go, well, where's the corresponding may? And whenever I see a may, I want to know under what circumstances am I, as an implementation, able to make this choice? So I think, and then there's possibly a little knock-on consequence that if I do that may, for example, leaving out something, then do I end up with something meaningless? It's not about the spec and the protocol. It's about the implementation and the interoperability that you might get if people make different may assumptions.
Well, we say should, and we say the consequence is for an unnumbered link, the link descriptor won't be used. I mean, the alternative would be to say must, and then would that mean that we'd have to make it
Must for unnumbered or something like that.
Yeah, but would that make it? Would we have to make it malformed then and treat it with withdrawal? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't want to do just when I was editing.
So the
today.
next sentence is the may, Adrian, that you're looking for. If it's not present, then what happens?
I don't know. I don't think we should get hung up on it, but we could make it a must and make it malformed if it doesn't have it for an unnumbered. I don't know.
Yeah. So Adrian, the may that you are looking for is the second sentence, and yeah. So yeah, I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I updated this. To say SPF status information.
Yeah. Adrian, is that is 5 to okay. Okay, so there was moving to the end of rib. So there was a lot. I also had comment on this in this area, and we had a lot of discussion. The history or the background is that end of rib has been optional in BGP, and it's the same here. So
So, yeah. Do we need some mechanism to indicate whether an rib will be sent or not from up here? If it is optional, how to determine whether I should wait or not?
It is in the management section.
Management.
yeah.
Is it can be using a knob to make it consistent. Yeah, actually, I think another comments related to end of rib is from Lee. He's asking about the.
We can finish this
Okay,
and then
maybe we can go.
Yeah.
to that later.
Okay.
I wonder whether that little mini paragraph at the end of 4.2 is actually just needs to be worded in English rather than in BCP 14, and just say that the SAFI may also be present. I mean, does it mean that a receiving implementation may choose to expect it? Or does it mean that a sender may choose to include it?
Well, it means the sender.
Also,
But I think that can, and it's more of editorial. We can maybe we can take it offline.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Is that
Sure, sure.
so I'm going to go further.
It does, in the management section, we say that it should be configured consistently throughout the BGP
Yeah,
SPF
it's-
routing domain. I don't think you can, that's the same with BGP. You configure it inconsistently, it's not
Yeah.
gonna work right.
So it's a must then.
Must be
Because
configured.
should sounds like, well, there are special
Must be
circumstances
configured.
Oh,
when you-
yeah, okay, yeah, we could say if the configure. Yeah, okay, must for the configuration, that's fine.
Okay. So for some of these things, I think I think these are mostly editorial. Yeah, you have a DPBD here.
Yeah.
So that's
Do you wanna
one.
talk back here? The thing we talked about, the session reset. That was another thing we added late, was that if we detected you're out of sync, you could reset the session. And we were talking about getting a. Here, you can use this one.
I mean, we could add to reset a session a reference to RFC 4271, which is the base BGP, and then just say, this is the section number which says what reset translates into, notification.
We talked about the notification, whether we wanted a
Yeah,
code.
yeah.
Code for it.
But that is something we can add as a subsequent one AC. I think we're too late into this. If this goes through into ISC, we can do that subsequent one. But here, simply adding a reference to 4271
Okay.
section that says inside 4271 BGP RFC, where it says Here is how you generate notification. I think just putting that reference here would be good enough, Adrian.
Okay. So, AC, do you have any? Some others are more. I'm not sure we want to kind of drain over all the things, but
Well,
do you have anything else that you want to?
If you want to cover the whether or not we want to put anything in the security about a DOS attack of somebody making it flat. I mean, I don't know why that's worse than regular BGP, but
Yeah, I mean,
Let me put my.
Right.
Different, if I was reviewing it, AC, it's a different circumstance. So BGP has some assumptions and has that in all the documents going up to 4270. You can't really say flapping doesn't matter in this environment. You have to couch it per,
no, I'm not
Per
saying it
applicable.
doesn't, but I was saying that it's no worse than BGP, but we.
it is worse for the environment you're trying to apply this to, in my understanding. If it isn't, then you need to just simply reference why it isn't worse in this environment. It's a different environment. Either it's really the same or it isn't. If it's really the same, why do we have this? If it isn't, prove out why.
I would say this behavior is exactly the same as you would see if you had configured IPv4 unicast, BGP, and you keep flapping it in data center versus SPF. So we could add some text to clarify it as to how you would want, but
That probably better.
but I think it is exactly the same as you flapping IPv4 unicast, standard BGP. So I mean, you can add a text if you like to say here is how it is no different, but
That should go to the application.
Yeah.
Here, it's not, it's all the same, here's the application.
Yeah.
That says that.
make sense?
Yep. That's
Is that
for
it?
you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's it. I think we should discuss the manageability things of whether or not off in the email, because we're not,
Yes.
we could be here.
Yeah, so we are
Then
not
we can
we are not
iterate
going
for
through
another
every
half
we are not
hour or
going through
so,
every
and that's
point, only
Yeah.
the ones where
We did-
authors wanted to have a discussion.
And they were minor anyway.
And Adrian, if you feel strong and you would like to suggest a text about anything, happy to take that into account as well.
Okay. Okay. So on the other comments that we received, technical comments, there was from
Lee.
Lee.
I think most of the Lee's comments has been resolved. Just maybe one or two remaining clarification things. Do you want to take a look here or about?
Yeah, why not?
One is about the end of RIP.
But is Lee here?
Let me check.
I didn't see that I had the end of rib one, what he said.
He's
So
now here.
I think, yeah, so let's take that on the email then.
Can we briefly, because I think
Okay, you go
because in my opinion, end of RIP is kind of although it's optional, maybe very helpful for this BGP SPF. Maybe we can briefly go through it.
That is very implementation specific.
Right.
The implementation we've made end of RIP purely optional. There is no reason why without end of RIP this can't work.
Yeah, just there's some text about with the end of RIP is enabled, which NRI should wait until you receive the end of RIP. I think this is something different from the traditional end of RIP usage. So this is maybe we can take a look.
If the end of RIP is enabled, you should wait for all NLRIs till you see an end of RIP, right?
Yeah, I mean the text is about after you receive the end of RIP. Only after you receive the end of RIP, you can send some NRIs. This is something.
No, only after you receive an end of RIP, you can compute.
to compute and then
Yeah, but
And
the
then
text
send.
is slightly different from that. Do you want?
Okay. Okay,
Want to take
maybe
it to
we
list?
take it
Okay.
on the list.
Yeah,
Okay.
just maybe a
So
follow-up.
we have a, yeah.
I apologize. I am gonna have to go at 6
Oh, okay, it's all right.
because of, I don't know if you know, Lou's scheduled to dinner. And he's also scheduled to go home on the red eyes after the dinner of all things. Not even his patient, not even his doctor calls him patient.
No, I'm around, I can go longer, but
Yeah, you can go, yeah, I gotta
Maybe
go.
we can take
No,
the rest.
we
of
are
the-
up on our time, and
Thank you.
the objective was to bring points that need discussion. Lee is not here, so I'd suggest we do it on the
Yeah.
email.
sure.
He didn't have that in yellow though in the secondary.
Maybe
Yeah,
in
because
different
you're-
mail systems, the
Different-
color can
Maybe it's
show.
a different thread, because I didn't see, I answered the two comments he had
Yeah.
in his follow-up email today, or yesterday.
But Adrian, we are going to incorporate all this as per what we have discussed, and hopefully, maybe you can help take second look and see if that makes sense.
So this all sounds really good, and and thank you for taking it in good spirit, because I know what it's like getting a late and pissy review. The only thing that's likely to keep coming back from me is the use of may, should, and recommended. And it's like, if you recommend something, that's the same as a should, so what are the options?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So
And thank you,
anything
Chair.
else? Anything else? Anybody wants to bring up? Okay. So next steps is Randy? No, sorry. I misinterpreted that. Okay, so next steps is we are still probably expecting one more update, and the working group last call is on till tomorrow. So we'll look forward to closing this working group last call and the next steps in the following week. And I think we are done here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.